Hi, I'm Rob Quick, the marketing manager from the shop, and I am here today with Karl Falk from Botdoc.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Super happy to have you here and super happy to partner with you in the shop. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself as well as Botdoc and what you guys do for dealerships?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit different of a path of a lot of people in automotive, but was a Air Force Academy graduate, was in the military for a bunch of years, did a bunch of government, secret squirrel stuff for a while, but then started Botdoc about 12 years ago, and it's been an interesting ride ever since with everything around cybersecurity and compliance. That's really what Botdoc's all about. Is we're not just security, but we're also always pushing the envelope of how do you make things secure, but also reduce friction in the transaction. And that's where I think we really fit a very unique niche in every industry, not just in automotive, but we support a lot of banking clients, investment firm clients, legal clients. We're also in the healthcare side. So we see a lot of different regulations, and it all comes down to not just security, but also how do you make it easy as well.
Awesome. Great answer. So got a couple of questions for you in regards to automotive. What's the biggest challenge that you see right now that dealerships face with exchanging sensitive information?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think for dealerships, one of the biggest challenges is this industry has not been regulated until the FTC Safeguards went into place, a couple years ago. So if you look at the banking industry, you've got, they've been regulated for 20 years, or more than 20 years. Mm-hmm. Same thing with healthcare. HIPAA came out in the 90s, mm-hmm. right? So you have an automotive industry that grew up on texting and emailing and DMing, and that was just the standard. And now you put regulations in place, and you have to kind of break that culture down. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that any dealership today has, is their staffs have been trained in a different way. Not that because it was bad, but because there was never any regulation around it. So I think that cultural change is going to be one of the hardest things that dealerships have to face on ensuring that their sales staff, their service staff are doing things in a more secure way. And not just compliance for compliance sake, but it really comes down to the cybersecurity aspect of it. I think there's a lot of questions in automotive. They're like, the FTC is just out to get us, and I hate those guys. And really what happened, I think this is an important topic to really, talk about, is the U.S. government actually came and said, we can no longer protect the U.S. consumer anymore by ourselves from cyber attacks and identity protection, everything else. So they had to push that responsibility on industry. And that's really why this is happening. So it's not just compliance for compliance sake. There's actually something behind it. And I think some of the issues that have come up over the last couple of years around cybersecurity in automotive, I think is a telltale sign to why it's so important.
Great answer. Very extensive. My next question for you today is going to be how to secure document exchange, improve efficiency in sales or delivery process for a dealership.
Yes, and so this is a twofold question, mm-hmm. or it's a question, but it's a twofold answer.
Okay,
because it can make it worse. When dealerships start looking at how do we make things more secure, bottom line is it can actually make the process worse, and that's not good. And that's where you really have to think in is how does security just become a part of the process so that it's not additional steps. So when you start talking about more friction in the transaction, that's bad, because once you put more friction, that means a good salesperson is going to go and figure out a way around it, right? Because they want to get it done. So that's where dealerships really have to think about. There are secure solutions out there that they can just check a box and say we have it, but are we actually using it? And if they are actually using it, if it's making their business actually worse, their processes, then they have a problem. And that's where the industry really has to start thinking about how do we make our platforms, our processes just secure by design, so that it just happens, and it's not an afterthought or additional steps that a dealership has to go through.
Okay, awesome. I have one more question for you today, sir, and that is going to be, what impact does secure encrypted communication have on compliance and risk for dealerships, especially when handling personal and regulatory documents?
Yeah, hands down, it's imperative. It is the quintessential piece of the puzzle that nobody's really addressing yet.
Okay.
Because it, like we said before, it's never been something that was important before. But at the end of the day, if that traffic and that communication and that data is not being protected appropriately, you're going to see systems go offline. You're going to see ransomware attacks at dealerships. The whole world in the, call it the dark web or the hacker environment, is paying attention to automotive because of what has happened over the last couple of years. And that means that they know that there's opportunity. And it's not just going to be the big groups. It can be, a single rooftop dealership group so everyone is not immune to it. I think that's something that has to be at the forefront. I think there needs to be a lot more education around it. If we look at our banking customers, they know that one of the core pieces of their business is having that CISO or that CIO at the table, part of their board. Nobody wants to get into the weeds, right? Because like, oh, that's a bunch of nerdy stuff, and I just want to run the business. I want to make revenue. But at the end of the day, if someone who's remote hacks in or exposes information about your business, they can take you down, and as we've seen. So I think as time goes on, I think it's going to become a more and more imperative for it to be in more and more conversations about how are we securing traffic, even traffic off of our multifunction printers, traffic between customers and our employees, between our systems and our customers, and looking at that from a holistic perspective, because at the end of the day, it's the dealership's customers. It's not the software provider's customers or even the salesperson's customers. It's that dealership, it's that brand, it's that name that's on the front that's important to that family or to that group that's been in business a long time. And the last thing they want to do is tarnish that brand. So more and more conversations, more and more education need to happen. And I'm grateful for the industry because a lot of people are taking it more seriously.
Awesome. Another fantastic answer. Yeah. Really appreciate your time, Karl. Thank you for swinging by and doing an interview with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Yep. Thanks.